They say talk is cheap, so let's add some value to your voice. It's Targeted Impressions with Scott Cody. So it's the start of Mardi Gras season, or Carnival if you're a local down here in New Orleans. And as a transplant, someone who moved to New Orleans and Louisiana from somewhere else, and we know that we've got a listening audience, and not only in this area but outside, I kind of wanted to give you an insider's perspective on the best way to communicate during Mardi Gras. And I think that there's a bad misconception out there with Mardi Gras that everything is just about, hey, show me your what's and what's, and that's what you get. And that's really not it at all. The true meaning of Mardi Gras is very similar to the true meaning of Christmas. It's about family. It's about faith. And so I kind of wanted to delve into that a little bit and have a little fun with it too, keeping on point with our message, though, about intentional communication. And our guest today is someone that I've known for a long time. And the first time I ever met him, he did something that immediately made me want to meet him in person. And what he did was, this was back before cell phones and back before Waze and back before Google Maps. He was able to get on the phone and give me point-by-point directions in an area that I'd never been in, and I got exactly to where I needed to be. He is my brother-in-law, Scott Kidder, born and raised in New Orleans, lived in Metairie, lived all over the place, former Marine. But he's my best friend. And he's my brother-in-law. And I wanted him to get on here to talk about some Mardi Gras. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great, man. Thank you very much. Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, that was a great entry right there. As far as the directions that I gave you that day, it was a crawfish ball. I probably had a few down in me, and I really don't remember giving you such good directions, but you kind of made it a point to locate me and come find me and say, man, those were fantastic directions. And hey, the rest is history, man. I've been directing you ever since.
I don't think I've gotten lost yet, but no, that just shows you too how bad I had been given directions before,
Correct.
When that's what was so impressive to me.
Right.
But no, talking about Mardi Gras. So we're recording this Friday, before the big weekend parades coming up. And a lot of people don't understand kind of what this whole carnival season entails, especially if you didn't grow up here.
Correct.
So kind of give everybody a breakdown of kind of what happened last weekend, what happened last night, and what to expect over the weekend.
Right. So carnival, basically carnival is the season. Mardi Gras is the day. I'm not the greatest historian on Mardi Gras, but I will tell you what I do know, and we might want to fact check a little later. I don't know. So anyway,
it's a podcast. We don't say anything, man. You just say it.
So this weekend, obviously, the weekend before Mardi Gras is the big Mardi Gras weekend, but the weekend prior to is just as much a big celebration. Also, a lot of family stuff, as my brother-in-law alluded to. Scott, you alluded to that at the very beginning. Mardi Gras for me is, I grew up in Mid-City, New Orleans, and my mother was a huge Mardi Gras person. So back when we had numerous parades that followed the Mid-City route, we were there. We were there during the week, and we did that every year. We'd go to parades, and it was a family thing. And then we'd catch Endymion at Mandina's, which was another big family gathering. And then we always ended up for Mardi Gras Day at the Knights of Columbus on St. Charles Avenue. So yes, the buildup is it's just a huge, and obviously as you get older, that family stuff kind of goes way to where once you start getting of adult age, it takes on a whole new meaning. We start to look at it as just one big party, and that's what it kind of is. As of yesterday, Thursday, I can remember in my early 20s. We would go from Thursday to Tuesday or Wednesday morning when they would kick us out of the French Quarter. So it's kind
of like a bell curve, right?
Yeah,
you start off and it's kind of family, and then you get into the stuff that I think everybody thinks about when they say Mardi Gras.
Correct.
And then you get into that part where you start having kids, and it kind of gets back into that other
right.
part.
You transform back to the family unit.
And I really came into it with, there was a couple of times I went as either a newly married or single guy, and I think going back to in the intro, you think of Mardi Gras, you think of Bourbon Street, you think of what you've got to do to get beads.
Correct.
But honestly, let's be on it. That is a very small percentage of what happens. You don't see that a lot on a parade route, hardly anywhere.
You don't see that. That's pretty much centrally located in the French Quarter. Where are you going to see that? And that's what people go down there for. I mean, let's be honest about it. You go to the French Quarter and you have pretty much an idea in your mind of what you're looking to see in the French Quarter, and you're probably going to see it. You're probably going to see it. I don't know. I hadn't been down there in years, so I can't really comment too much about it, but I'm sure it's just as wild as ever, if not wilder,
And then, you and I both, you've introduced me to duck hunting and the process that involves with that. A former Marine, you're all about the process. And so I envision, I had this last night happen to me before we go to Muses and it kind of got sprung on us. I don't like going to the parades or doing much unless I really thought about it. Unless all right, have I
Correct.
packed this? Do I have this? Do I have trash bag? Do I have the wagon? And so for it to get sprung on me like it did last night, I really wasn't looking forward to the parade that much. I'll be completely honest. And a lot of times I don't look forward to the parade. And then the process happens, and then you get down there, and then the parade starts happening, and the atmosphere starts happening. And what happens every time? You end up having a blast, man.
Right.
You really do. And you're with your family, you're with your friends, it's a very laid back atmosphere. You feel safe. There's not a time where you're just not really having a lot of fun. And I've got to always kind of tell myself that with someone who didn't grow up with it, right? I got introduced to it when I was 30 years old, but it takes me, I almost kind of have to rev myself up to get into it a little bit.
Yeah, and I'm the same way too. It's just like you said, you try to be prepared for everything out there because you just, you got to have this, you got to have that, you got to have this. So yes, you do. Like today, after I finish this podcast, we're going to Endymion tomorrow. We've been doing it for years, and I already pretty much know what I need to do to prepare for tomorrow. I got to go run some errands here, run some errands there, get back to the house and prepare everything because you don't want to be on the parade route and not have this or forgot that. So yes, it's pretty much is.
Yeah, for two reasons. Because one, you may not find it anywhere.
Exactly.
You find it's going to be hella expensive.
Exactly. So you want to prep for it. And I tell you what, and one thing cool about it is generally you with friends and family all over the place. And so if you don't have something, hey, everybody around here is so willing to just, give you whatever you need. That's just like if you go tailgating up in Baton Rouge, man. You know what? You don't have it. Guess what? Somebody's so willing to give you a hand and give you what you need if you don't have it. So that's one thing great about Mardi Gras also is camaraderie, the friendship, the family, and just a good time. It really is.
And then two, there is I think there's an art to kind of getting what it is that you want, right? We've talked about it. We know how some people will get their beads in the French Quarter. But one thing that I started watching was the different ways in every other parade of how you get the attention of the people that are on the float. And there's some people do signs, some people yell as loud as they can, some people wear.
Right.
That's kind of where the outlandish costumes come in that you see when you're on a parade route. But you've kind of developed a way that you think works for you, right? To if you need the shoe, if you need the coconut, whatever it is.
Correct. Well, and I'm sure I'm not the only person out there. All these riders are matched. So they got their mask on and, it's especially for a big parade like Endymion and Bacchus. The floats are so big, so long, there's so many people. And if you ever rode on a float or ridden on a float before, the chaos that's going around. I mean, everybody's screaming. But man, if you're able to lock eye-to-eye contact with that person on the float, it's like magic, man. They're looking at you and they spot you and you look at them and you point at them and boom, they just throw you whatever. And it's just like a connection between that person attending a parade and that rider. That's pretty unique. Another funny thing too is my Uncle Tommy would do this all the time too. And it's really tough to do at some of these bigger parades because the riders can't hear you or anything. But my uncle would always yell out something like, "Hey, how about a long bead for New York? I'm from New York," or something like that. And just make up that he was out of town or visiting. And it worked. It worked. It was so funny, the response that he would get from people that were riding floats that they thought that he was from out of town. So, there's different ways of doing it. But that way for me is just trying to get that rider, man, to just see you any which way you can to get their attention. And man, once you kind of point at them and they see you and put those, you just
And you
have
don't
that
know
eye
these people from.
No, you don't know who
You
they
don't know
are.
who they are. And to your point, there's like this instant. They smile, you're smiling, and it's all for a little plastic bead or a glass
Right,
bead.
right.
You use the term long bead, and I want to make sure the folks that aren't from around here, there's all kind of throws that you get, and
Correct.
the long beads are exactly what you just said they are. They're really
Really
long
long
beads. You kind
beads.
of double them up. There's the glass beads that are. Those are kind of
That are
those are a
coming.
big thing now.
Those are coming back into fashion. That was back when I was younger. That's pretty much all you had. It was the glass beads that were just strung together, and they kind of went out of style. And then the long beads, and now they're kind of making a comeback. So it's pretty unique that they're doing that.
So I'd watch you do that, and you would always be able, especially when you go with kids and the kids want the specialty throws or whatever else
Correct.
that there is. You had this way of making sure you got up there, and so you were always the favorite uncle because you could get the Argus, the Argus peacock or something like that. So I
Right.
started watching and started like, how the hell is he doing it? And so I started kind of mimicking, right? And I became
Right.
intentional, which is the theme of the podcast. And so what I started doing, and it worked even last night, I noticed myself doing it. I'm looking at it, and especially if it's a female rider, hey, good looking. Hey,
Yeah.
good looking.
Yep.
And
It works.
and I don't know if they hear that part. Maybe it's just the eye contact, but I can tell you unscientifically, hey, good looking works very well to get beats.
Sure.
Man.
And I tell you what, not only with the riders on the float, but you got these bands that a lot of them been marching numerous nights, and they're tired, and you see these girls dancing, and I love doing this too when the girls come walking by, and you just say, "Best looking girls I've seen all day," and it really brings a smile to their face, and it kind of lightens their mood a little bit because, man, let's face it, 7, 8, 9 miles they're marching, and the next day they wake up. Sometimes they do 2 parades, so just doing that too to give them a little smile, it's a good deal. It feels good, not only to make them smile, but to have them smile, and kind of the same thing with the riders too. Just anything you could do to kind of get their attention, and it's all in good fun. It really is.
I got a new respect for, so also in these parades, you've got, not just the floats that are throwing out beads, you've got bands. And to your point, you've got these little smaller dance troops, but you've got school marching bands that kind of come through. And we were fortunate last year. They have chaperones that march with them. So the band and the dancers or whomever are marching down. Well, the parents are the ones that are kind of keeping the crowd off of them. And not that it's ever a dangerous thing. It's really just to make sure that you have enough space. So we did that last year for our oldest high school team that dances, that went into it. And you're right. It's a long walk, man. You're tired. You're making sure they're not stepping on beads. So I would always watch you as the chaperones would come by. Hey, let's give it up for the chaperones.
Correct.
And man, you would have thought you had given them a winning lottery ticket. It really makes their day.
Yeah. And that was another thing too. I'd always give a shout out to the chaperones, and these parents. It's their child, but they got to do this with them all the time too. And a lot of times they're just worn out just as much as the kids are. So yeah, you give them a little shout out too. It puts a big smile on their face, and
all right, so
it's good to do.
So let's do this. So we talked about the bell curve of your experiences with Mardi Gras, with Carnival.
Correct.
So give me your kid as a kid from, let's say, 5 to 14, your favorite Mardi Gras memory from that time.
Oh man, from 5 to 14. Well, the big thing for us is we would go down to the Knights of Columbus on St. Charles Avenue, which is right like a half a block off of Gravier. And we would go there, and it was all family and friends, and it was just such a good time. We were very fortunate too. They had I don't know if it's still there. I'm sure it's still there. It's the Louisiana Club. It was right across the street from where we were. So the Louisiana Club would toast Zulu and Rex, the king and queen, every year there. So we got to witness, every year the toasting of that. So it was very cool to see that, because it just happens at Gallia Hall or maybe somewhere else along the route, but that happened every year right where we were. So we got to witness the toasting and listen to the speech. So that was kind of unique to see that. I didn't really, appreciate it too much at the time, but the more I look back on it, it was a pretty unique experience to witness that for the number of years I did, and kind of more appreciate it now than when I was
When
younger.
you were doing it. All right.
Correct.
So now we
So
take
that was a good memory right there.
now we take the middle time where it probably gets a little crazier. The nights are a little longer, but your PG memory that you can give us from that time period.
Oh man, from early teens to 20s was just, it was almost uh, a sin to miss a parade. For us, we didn't miss any parades. We would sometimes catch the parades uptown, and then we'd come back to Metairie, or vice versa. We'd catch the parades in Metairie and then go catch a parade uptown. We did that oftentimes. We'd spend all day, Mardi Gras day, downtown, and then end up catching the end of Mardi Gras on Veterans. So that was the big thing. Is like, hey man, let's hit them all. We're going to hit them all. We're going to do this. And so along with that, just came so much fun, and hooking up with friends, and that was the thing. You just try to see as many parades as you can, and if you wasn't at that parade, hey man, you would just
you better be in the hospital or something.
Yeah,
you better have a good excuse.
That's right.
All right. So now then, father of two boys, so you've done the whole lugging the ladders, and that's something that is unique. If you're not from here, so what
Wow.
you do is you take a step ladder and then you build essentially a small bench on the top of it, and then you put wheels on that top part of the bench. And so now you're able to roll. Once the ladder is folded up, you roll that along with you till you get set up. Then you set up the ladder, and as the adult, you stand on the steps. Your kid is in the little bench part of it, the little bench part, and you're up there making sure that when they're getting beads, that they're not getting pelted in the face by beads.
Right.
But yeah,
or that the ladder doesn't fall over.
The ladder doesn't fall over. And of course, in true Louisiana, South Louisiana fashion, a lot of these have cup holders attached to them where your beer can go in.
Correct. That's an essential part of it.
So as a father, as a parent in Mardi Gras, that's a completely different experience too.
Wow. And I'll tell you what, it's you always hear this saying about boats. What's the best day owning a boat? It said the day you bought the boat and the day you sold the boat, and the same can be said for a ladder. It's the greatest thing when you first get it. You're just like, oh, this is so great. You don't have to sit there and put your child on your shoulder and hold them the whole time. You just plop them in the ladder. You stand behind them. But after going to, numerous parades in one year, and it just kind of goes into where every year you're just lugging that ladder, and more stuff gets added to it. Then all of a sudden, as you leave in the parade, everybody just seems to lay everything on top of that ladder. So instead of just carrying the weight of the ladder, you're carrying everything else back to the car. And so, so when they finally get to the point where they're out of the ladder, it's like, oh my goodness, thank God. But at the time, kind of going to your thing, yes. And of course, it's a big thing too, is you got to get out there a little early with those ladders too, because, hey,
it's a battleground.
If you're from this, if you're from this area, man, it's people get very territorial, man. They get out there and pee on that ground early to mark that territory.
Sometimes literally,
yes. Literally, they pee on that ground, and so, man, if you're out there a little too late, then you kind of standing a little further back than what you wanted to, and which sometimes isn't a bad thing. Sometimes further back, you get just as much beads as you do if you're right up on the float. So it's a win-win either way. But oh yeah, it's a battleground out there to get out there with those ladders sometimes. So that's another thing too, is the anticipation of, hey man, I got to get out there early. Okay, do we have it? Kind of going what we were talking about here. Do I have everything? Do I have this? Oh, we got to get out there early. So the adrenaline is flowing, trying to get just everything set up just right. And once you do, kind of what we alluded to before, it's like, okay, now I can relax and have a good time. And then that's where a good time comes in.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And then, you talked about making eye contact with the riders and having a connection. There's an eye contact that I think dads make that are hauling stuff and wagons and ladders to and from parade spots. Man, you're always willing to help. All right, I feel your pain, brother.
Sure.
I feel your pain.
Without a doubt, man. Oh yeah, you look at
the other. You see somebody that's come up with something that's even better. Like, whoa, what is that? 4-wheel drive? Like, how did you get that ladder?
Oh yeah. You always, I can remember the first time I saw, instead of just going up the steps of the ladder, somebody had where they built it, where they had like a little screw. And as they opened the ladder up, a platform popped up behind the ladder itself. So they could stand on the platform instead of just standing on it. And I was just like intrigued by it. Whoa, hold on a second. So I went over there and it's like we're, two dogs sniffing each other out here. Well, what you got here, buddy? All right. So yeah, it's hey, you know how it is in Louisiana. Everybody's unique and with ideas, and man, you'll find some stuff along the parade routes, no doubt about it.
Yeah,
no doubt about it.
And then kind of summing it up, I think one of the biggest things outside of just the actual parade and the event and the fanfare and everything that goes with it, one thing that took me the longest to adjust to, not being from here, it shuts down. The kids are out of school for a week.
Yes.
Businesses are shut down on that day.
Oh yeah.
It's and my kids and yours might be the same way. They don't get that other people are working and going to school and doing all this. It blows their mind. And the biggest example we had of this was there was one Mardi Gras, 1 week of, where we took a trip to go back and see my folks in Texas. And I'm trying to set up dinners and lunches with all my friends. And they're like, dude, I work and my kids are in school. We can't just go play golf today, and we can't just go have a dinner. You know,
wait, what do you mean? You're not off? What are you talking about? It's Mardi Gras.
It is something just as unique as the fact that it shuts down, and I don't think people understand that.
No, and I got a great story for that. When I was in the Marine Corps, I was stationed in California at Delmore, and it was Fat Tuesday, Mardi Gras Day, and so I had a number of fellow Marines that were from New Orleans. And so every morning we line up for our little just formation. And before formation started, before we got all official into our Marine Corps day, all the Marines from New Orleans got together and started singing the Mardi Gras Mambo. And everybody was just like, what the hell are y'all doing, man? And we sang the whole thing, clapping, cutting up. Some of them had beads and we're throwing beads to each other, and people just did not get it. And we're trying to explain to these other Marines, like, hey, today in the city of New Orleans, you have thousands of people partying their butts off right now, okay? And here it's just Tuesday. It's just Tuesday and we're going about our business, okay? And so it was a really unique experience to be somewhere else for that and have the camaraderie of fellow New Orleanians to get together and to do that and just have people just look at us like, what is going on here? What are y'all doing? And hey, man, if you know, you know. That's the saying, huh?
There you
That's
go,
it.
man. Well, look, I'd love to hear other people's ideas of the best way to attract a bead, the PG version. But put some comments and when you see this, if you listen to it, and let us know what you're thinking. But Scott, man, this was kind of on a whim. I was literally driving in, and I texted you, and I love what you texted me back. Is this the right person? Because all I said was, hey, man, I want you to come on my podcast today. We're going to talk Mardi Gras.
Yeah, and I texted you back. I said, are you texting the right person for this? What are you doing?
And look, and we text 10 times a day, right?
Correct.
I mean, it's
correct.
Like it's not something new for me to text you out of the blue. But that was pretty funny. And what I love about it too is you show up, you're in Mardi Gras gear. I'll post a picture of that. But then too, this is the first beer I've had on the podcast.
Correct. Hey, man.
And I don't think there was an episode that would be more appropriate.
Right. We're doing it New Orleans style. And that's how we do. That's how we do in New Orleans, for Mardi Gras is.
I thought New Orleans people hated it when you said New Orleans.
New Orleans. Yeah. Hey, man, that's the movie Hollywood version, New Orleans.
Well, man, I appreciate you coming on. This is fun. This is fun.
Loves it. Thank you.
Yeah, man. Targeted Impressions is a product of 3131 Media Solutions, a full-service advertising agency. Make your voice count. Be intentional with what it is that you say. We appreciate you listening. Give us a like. Give us a comment. Follow us. Give us 5 stars. All that stuff that you're supposed to do to make sure that the podcast gets heard and seen and listened to by everyone else. And I got a really cool guest coming up next week as well. that'll be talking about kind of how you get out of a crisis when you're in a crisis. So until then, we'll get to just keep kind of partying a little bit. What you got? Oh,
Yeah,
you got something? Are you going to interrupt me?
I just want to give a little shout out to all the men and women that are doing the hard job, all the police, NOPD, state troopers, and all the other ones that are keeping this celebration safe, man. Hey, shout out to y'all. We love y'all.
Great job. All right, we'll end it with a watch this. See if you can hear it. A cheers.
Happy Mardi Gras.
Happy Mardi Gras to you. Take care, everyone.